She did not cry in the courtroom, not when the judge announced the divorce, not when her husband smirked as if he had just won a business deal, and not even when his lawyer quietly pushed the final papers toward her, because the real pain had already happened long before that day. Elena stood there in a simple dress, hands folded, eyes calm, while the man she had loved for 10 years avoided looking at her like she was a stranger. Victor Carolan was powerful, influential, and admired in every room he entered. He owned construction companies, luxury cars, and half the skyline of the city. People called him brilliant. They called him unstoppable. At that moment, he looked untouchable. The divorce had been his idea. He said she was too ordinary for his new life, too quiet for high society, too simple for a man who now dined with politicians and investors. He told her she did not fit beside him anymore. Elena had listened in silence. She had always been quiet. Not weak, just quiet. She had supported him when he had nothing but debt and ambition. She had worked double shifts while he built his first company. She had believed in him before anyone else did. But success changed him slowly. It hardened his voice. It sharpened his pride. And one day, he looked at her like she was an inconvenience. In court, Victor's lawyer made sure the settlement favored him. The house would remain his. Most assets were registered under his companies. Elena would leave with a small apartment and modest support. Victor did not even try to hide his satisfaction. When the judge finished speaking, Elena simply nodded. No argument. No scene. She signed the papers with steady hands. Sadness filled her first. A deep, quiet sadness that felt heavier than anger. She remembered their early years, the small kitchen, the cheap coffee they shared at midnight while dreaming about the future. She remembered believing they were a team. Now she realized she had been standing alone for a long time. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited. Victor loved attention. He walked down the steps confidently, speaking to reporters about new projects, about growth, about vision. Elena followed behind, unnoticed. Some whispered that she had lost everything. Some pitied her. She felt helpless then, not because she had no money, but because her years of loyalty seemed erased. She stood on the sidewalk holding a small folder of documents, unsure where to go next. Victor passed by her and leaned closer for a brief second. He said quietly, almost kindly, that this was better for both of them. Then he stepped into his luxury car and drove away. Elena watched the car disappear. For a moment, the world felt silent and empty. She could have broken down right there. But she did not. She took a slow breath. Somewhere beneath the sadness and helplessness, a small quiet hope still existed. She had something Victor no longer valued. She had patience. She had knowledge. Years ago, before marriage, Elena had studied finance and strategic management. She had helped Victor structure his early contracts. She had read every agreement, reviewed every risk, and advised him when no one else believed in him. After he became successful, he stopped listening to her advice. But she had never stopped learning. During the last 2 years of their marriage, while he traveled and built new connections, she quietly completed advanced certifications online. She never told him, not because she was hiding, but because he never asked. That afternoon, after leaving the courthouse, she did not go home. She walked to a small cafe where she used to study long ago. She opened her laptop and began sending emails. Calmly, carefully. One of those emails was to a private investment firm she had once consulted for before marriage. The owner of that firm, Alexander Morozov, was known in financial circles as a visionary. He respected intelligence more than status. Years earlier, he had offered Elena a junior analyst position, but she declined because Victor needed her support. Alexander had never forgotten her sharp mind. When he received her message that afternoon, he replied within minutes, asking to meet. Elena did not rush. She did not chase. She simply waited and prepared. The next morning, she met Alexander in his office. He listened as she explained her ideas about restructuring mid-sized construction investments, about reducing risk exposure in volatile markets, about strategies Victor himself had recently failed to implement. Alexander asked precise questions. Elena answered without emotion, without bitterness. Just facts. By the end of the meeting, he offered her a senior advisory role. It was not charity. It was recognition. Weeks passed. Elena worked quietly. She avoided interviews. She focused on numbers, strategy, and rebuilding her own confidence. Meanwhile, Victor's companies began facing unexpected financial pressure. Several aggressive expansions created cash flow strain. Investors grew nervous. Newspapers started questioning his decisions. Victor blamed market conditions. He blamed competitors. He never imagined that one of those competitors was guided by Elena's strategic insight at Alexander's firm. Elena did not seek revenge. She never mentioned Victor's name. She simply applied what she knew. Her analyses helped Alexander's firm acquire struggling assets at the right moment. One of those assets was a major project Victor had overleveraged. The acquisition was legal, clean, and precise. When Victor realized the deal had slipped from his hands, he was furious. He demanded to know who had structured the competing offer. The answer surprised him. It was Elena. He refused to believe it at first. In his mind, she was still the quiet woman who stood behind him. He had never truly seen her. Months later, at a high-profile business conference, Victor arrived determined to restore his reputation. Cameras flashed. Investors gathered. And then, a sleek black limousine pulled up to the entrance. The driver stepped out and opened the door. Elena emerged, calm and elegant, not in luxury for display, but in confidence. The limousine belonged to Alexander's firm. She was now a partner. Whispers spread quickly. Victor froze. For the first time, he did not look untouchable. Elena walked past him slowly. She did not smirk. She did not show triumph. She simply nodded politely, as if greeting a distant acquaintance. Inside the conference hall, Alexander publicly credited his firm's recent successes to his strategic partner, Elena. He spoke about loyalty to principles, about intelligence that does not need to shout, about strength that grows in silence. Applause filled the room. Victor stood in the crowd, realizing that the woman he once called ordinary had been extraordinary all along. Elena felt many emotions in that moment. The old sadness no longer hurt. The helplessness had transformed into calm certainty. Her quiet hope had carried her through weeks of uncertainty. Her patience had allowed justice to unfold naturally. She had not needed to fight loudly. She had not needed to destroy anyone. Life had simply revealed the truth at the right time. After the event, Victor approached her. His voice was different, less sharp. He said he underestimated her. He said he was wrong. Elena listened calmly. She did not speak about the past. She only said that sometimes people lose what they never truly valued. Then she walked toward the limousine waiting outside. Not because she needed to prove anything, but because it was time to move forward. As the car drove away, the city lights reflected in the window beside her. She did not feel revenge. She felt peace. The divorce that once seemed like the end had been the beginning. The humiliation that once felt unbearable had pushed her toward her own strength. She had moved through sadness, through helplessness, holding on to quiet hope, trusting patience, and in the end, justice had arrived not with noise, but with clarity. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who walk away silently, because they know their value does not disappear just because someone else fails to see it.